If you love the Eagles as much as we do, you already know how wild this season felt from start to finish. And I'm not just talking about the highlights or the wins. I'm talking about the moments that made you question everything. The games where you felt the team was so close to greatness and then somehow just slipped. Today we have to talk about a few things that are still burning after the season ended. First, Jalen Hurts and the leadership debate that keeps getting thrown around like it's some kind of fact. Then we need to talk about Howie Roseman and what in the world is going on with these offensive coordinator interviews, and lastly, the playoffs. Because if we're being honest, we didn't just lose a game, we lost the whole season. And that's the part that hurts the most. I waited to make this video because I wanted to see how the playoffs would shake out. I wanted to see if the Eagles could have actually made a run if everything had gone right. And then Sunday happened. We watched the 49ers win with 4 backups, and suddenly you're thinking, wait, what? That team wasn't even close to full strength, yet they still beat us. And the real problem wasn't the defense. People keep trying to downplay the defense like they didn't show up. They did. They created turnovers. They made plays. They kept the game within reach, but the issue was that we had zero complementary football. Every time the Seahawks got the ball, they scored. They ran the ball well. They passed the ball well. And they had a coach who actually knew how to adjust and keep things moving. That's what happens when your offense can't sustain drives. And here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. When you're 3 and out repeatedly, your defense is going to get worn down. It's not rocket science. You can't ask a defense to play at a high level for the entire game when the offense keeps putting them right back on the field. That's why the Seahawks were able to beat the 49ers back end. It wasn't that the 49ers didn't show up. It was that they didn't have the pieces to keep up. And watching that, I couldn't help but feel furious that we wasted a season where we had the best roster in the NFC. And arguably the best setup in the league. We had the chance to make a serious run. And instead we fumbled it away. It wasn't just one mistake or one bad call. It was a season of missed opportunities, bad coaching decisions, and a lack of identity on offense when it mattered most. The defense gave us everything they could, but you can't carry a whole season on your back. Not when the offense is inconsistent and the coaching staff keeps making the same errors over and over. So when people try to blame the fans or act like the defense didn't play well, it's just not accurate. The defense showed up, the offense didn't. And that falls squarely on the coaching. And now we're watching the head coaching interviews, and it's honestly starting to feel like a joke. Howie Roseman keeps saying he's interviewing a wide range of guys, but the names being thrown around feel like a list of who's available rather than who can actually fix this offense. It's like he's just picking names off a hat. We've seen reports about Brian Daboll, and I get it, he has a resume. He's done some impressive things in Buffalo, and he's shown he can run an offense. But the problem is he a leader? That's the question. Because you can be a great offensive mind and still not have the kind of leadership that fits this locker room. And let's not forget that Daboll is someone who has a history with Jalen Hurts. He's the coach who benched him at Alabama, and that kind of history can be tricky. It could be a good thing, because it means he knows what Hurts can do and how to get the best out of him. But it could also bring a level of tension that you don't want in a situation where the quarterback needs stability and confidence. If Hurts doesn't want him here, then that's a problem, because the head coach needs to be a collective decision. You can't just bring in someone who the quarterback isn't comfortable with and expect everything to magically work out, but then you look at the other names, like Bobby Slowick from Miami, and that one actually feels promising. He's a low-key name, but he's someone who's shown he can create explosive offense and get the most out of a young quarterback. If you can't get the big name, then this is the type of hire that makes sense. He's young, he's smart, and he's clearly learning from a coach who has built a dynamic offense in Miami. The problem is that if he does well here, he won't stay long. That's the risk. He could be gone after a year or two, and then we're back to square one. But at least it would be progress. And then you have the one name that should be the obvious choice, Mike McDaniel. This is the guy who has proven he can build an elite offense, who understands how to design plays and manage an attack that keeps defenses guessing. The way he talks about the game, it's like he's a human computer. He understands concepts and schemes at a level most coaches don't even reach. If the Eagles want to truly be elite, they need someone who can take this offense to another level. Nick Sirianni has had success, but there's no denying that the offense has stalled when it mattered most. And if we're being Honest, it's time for a change. The time is now. But let's switch gears and talk about the bigger narrative that's been floating around lately. Jalen Hurts being labeled as a bad leader. You've probably seen the headlines. You've probably seen the take from people who clearly don't have any inside information. The Athletic published a survey that supposedly shows Hurts is not respected, not liked, and not a leader. But then you look at the actual facts, and you see that he was ranked among the top leaders in the Eagles' locker room. That alone debunks the whole thing. It's clickbait, it's noise, and it's the kind of narrative that gets pushed when people want to stir the pot, because if you actually watch how the season went, you see a guy who stepped up when the coaching staff didn't have answers. You see a guy who became more vocal when the team needed direction. And you see a guy who didn't let personal issues with teammates define the season, even when there was tension with A.J. Brown. Hurts handled it like a leader. He didn't let it fester. He addressed it. He moved on, and they ended the season on a better note. That's what leadership looks like. It's not always about being the loudest guy in the room. Sometimes it's about being the one who keeps the team together when everything is falling apart. And that's the part that really stands out to me, because this year, the Eagles didn't just lose. They lost because of a lack of cohesion on offense, because of poor decision-making, and because the coaching staff couldn't get the unit moving when it mattered most. But Hurts, he showed up. He showed up as a leader. He showed up as a competitor, and he showed up as the guy who was willing to take responsibility. Even when things got messy. Now, if you're watching all this unfold, you've got to ask yourself what the Eagles are really doing with this offseason, because right now, it feels like we're in a weird limbo. We have a quarterback who has proven, who has shown he can win big games, and who has grown into a leader, but then you look at the way the team ended this season, and you see a franchise that seems to be questioning everything, and that's the problem. If you're going to build a championship team, you need consistency. You need a plan, you need a direction, and right now, it feels like we're just throwing ideas at the wall and seeing what sticks. The first thing that needs to be addressed is the coaching situation. If you're going to keep Nick Sirianni, then you need to give him a staff that can actually win in the playoffs. You can't keep running the same offense with the same issues and expect a different result. It's not how it works. The Eagles were supposed to be built for this. We had the weapons. We had the defense. We had the talent. But the offense, especially in the biggest moments, looked lost. And that's why the playoff loss was so painful, because it wasn't just that we lost. It was how we lost. It was like watching a team that had all the tools but didn't know how to use them when the pressure was on, and that's why the OC search is so important. Because you can't keep hoping that the same system that got you this far will suddenly start working in the playoffs. It doesn't happen like that. You need someone who can adjust, someone who can read defenses and change the game plan on the fly, someone who can put the quarterback in the best position to succeed. And if that's not happening, then you need to change the architecture of the offense. That's where the names come in. You've got guys like Brian Daboll, who clearly knows how to run an offense. But you've also got the question of leadership and fit. You've got guys like Bobby Slowick, who are young and innovative and could bring a fresh approach. And then you've got the dream option, Mike McDaniel, who is the kind of offensive mind that can take this team to another level. And the reality is that if the Eagles want to be serious about competing, they need to stop playing games and go after the best option. Because the NFC is not going to get easier. Teams are getting better. Quarterbacks are getting better. And if you're not evolving, you're falling behind. Now, let's talk about the bigger picture. Because what happened this season wasn't just a loss on the field. It was a loss in momentum. The Eagles had a chance to establish themselves as the top team in the NFC for years. We had a window where everything was aligned, but instead of capitalizing on it, we let it slip away, and that's why the frustration is so real. It's not that we're disappointed because we lost. It's that we lost the opportunity to cement ourselves as a dynasty-level team. We had the chance, and we let it slip. And then you look at the other teams in the league and you see how fragile success can be. The Rams, for example, might have one of the easiest paths to the Super Bowl. They've got a quarterback situation that is questionable, but they've got a roster that's built to win. If they make it to the Super Bowl, they'll be playing a team that is either the Broncos, with a backup quarterback, or the Patriots, a team that still feels like it's trying to figure out its identity. That's not a scary matchup. Not when you consider the talent we have. That's why it's so frustrating. Because it's like we were supposed to be the ones in that position. And that brings us back to the leadership question. Because the narrative that Hurts is a bad leader is not just wrong, it's disrespectful. It's disrespectful to a guy who has carried this team and who has grown every single year. It's disrespectful to the locker room that has publicly praised him. And it's disrespectful to the fans who know what they've seen on the field. You can't just throw out a narrative like that and expect people to accept it without question. You have to look at the evidence, and the evidence is clear. Jalen Hurts is a leader. He's the kind of leader that steps up when the team needs it most. He's the kind of leader that doesn't let personal issues destroy the team, and he's the kind of leader that has earned the respect of his teammates. Now, I'm not saying he's perfect. Nobody is. But what I am saying is that he deserves better than to be used as a scapegoat for a season that was lost because of coaching and scheme issues. Because if you want to blame someone, blame the system, blame the play calling, blame the lack of consistency. Blame the fact that we never really found a rhythm in the biggest games. Those are the real issues. And those are the issues that need to be addressed this offseason. Because if the Eagles want to come back stronger, they need to make bold decisions. They need to stop being timid. They need to stop making the same mistakes and expecting a different result. They need to be willing to bring in a coach who can elevate the offense. They need to be willing to give Jalen Hurts the support he needs to succeed. And they need to be willing to build a team that can win when the lights are the brightest. And that's the question going forward. Are the Eagles going to do what it takes? Or are we going to keep seeing the same cycle repeat? Because right now, the NFC is wide open. There are opportunities. There are matchups. There are teams that are still figuring things out. But the window for the Eagles to be elite is not going to stay open forever. If we don't make the right moves, if we don't fix the offense, if we don't get the right coach, then we're going to look back on this season as the one we wasted. And that's not a feeling any Eagles fan wants to live with. So as the offseason continues, keep watching, keep paying attention. Because the decisions that get made now are going to define this team for the next few years. And if the Eagles want to be serious contenders, they need to stop making excuses and start making moves. Because the time is now and the clock is ticking. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy, share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers are growing loud around the league, and in Philadelphia the buzz is impossible to ignore. Marcus Williams, long regarded as one of the most complete and intelligent players at his position, is being linked to the Eagles in what could become one of the most talked about moves of the season, while nothing has been officially confirmed. The mere possibility has already ignited celebration among fans and sparked heated debates in sports radio studios and locker rooms alike. Sources close to the situation suggest that the Eagles front office has been quietly monitoring Williams for some time, impressed not only by his athleticism but by his leadership and football IQ. The idea of adding a proven star, still in his prime, fits perfectly with a franchise that believes its competitive window is wide open. For a team that prides itself on aggressive decision-making, this rumored arrival feels less like a gamble and more like a statement of intent. Round the city, the mood is one of cautious optimism mixed with outright excitement. Jerseys bearing Williams' name have already begun appearing in conversations, if not yet in stores. And social media is flooded with highlight clips and hypothetical lineups. Analysts speculate that his presence could immediately elevate the defense, bringing a sense of calm and authority that only seasoned stars tend to provide. Teammates, according to insiders, are intrigued by the prospect, viewing Williams as the kind of player who raises standards without saying a word, of course. Rumors remain rumors until contracts are signed and press conferences held. There are questions about fit, about financial details, and about how the ripple effects might reshape the roster. Still, in Philadelphia, belief often arrives before certainty. The narrative writes itself, a star defender stepping into a historic franchise, an energized fan base ready to embrace a new hero, and an organization signaling that it refuses to stand still. If this speculation turns into reality, it may be remembered as a turning point. For now, it lives in the space between hope and confirmation, where Eagles fans are more than happy to dream. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.